take a look at Ethereum today and dive in a little deeper. There's a lot of things that could be happening on the macro side, but also within the markets. We'll also dive into the Bitcoin ETF. Take a look at what that, because obviously we are seeing some market movement right now across all of crypto. We'll break it all down for you. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. I want to thank our sponsor today, and that is Tangem. Jump over to their website. It's very simple. This is a self-custody wallet that you guys can use. It's very simple to get one. Jump over there, click that Get Tangem. It's going to take you right over to the variations that you can go into. This is a card, works with a great app, and it enables you guys to do a ton of things in terms of self-custody, which is one of the things you should be doing. If you're not doing self-custody today, that's the first thing you should be looking into. So go out, do some study work, and learn about self-custody. This is one of the things. If you're brand new to crypto, also do that. This is also a great deal. Use our code, so it's going to get you an additional discount over there. So make sure and try that out. All right, a couple things I want to get into, a couple of tweets here. This is coming in from Watch a Guru. Just in, of course, Blackrock iShares Spot Bitcoin ETF relisted on the DTCC. Basically, this is the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, which starts the process of getting an ETF ready for market consumption. It went on, it went off. A lot of people speculating to what this and why. And of course, the big part of this is the movement we've seen in the market in a very short period of time. Now, Ethereum has not necessarily had the same kind of movement. So we're going to show you guys a few things to break out a little bit of an analysis on Ethereum and why there could be a pent-up demand for an ETH potential ETF as well. So go into all that. Let me jump over to another tweet right here. This is coming from Eleanor Terrett, also talking about the Bitcoin Spot ETF. And the statement here is, we're excited for these products to come to market, but this level of hysteria is something we've never seen before. And this is traditional finance execs talking about what's happening in the ETF space. Bitcoin flying, we've seen another kind of local high here, continues to hold even after we saw the listing pull off the DTCC. So question is, does Bitcoin even care? I mean, are we in that phase right now where Bitcoin is going to get this pump? And do we look at a retracement? I'd love to get you guys' thoughts on that. Will Bitcoin retrace off of these highs? Or do we see Bitcoin maybe make its way up to 40, 42K? That's where some analysts are kind of pushing to. This headline right here, of course, DTCC listing of the planned Blackrock Bitcoin ETF is not indicative of an approval. And all of this is speculation. Remember, and I'll zoom in on that for you guys. But one thing that they did say here is it's a standard of practice. Now, what that simply means, BlackRock's prepping for this product to be ready. I think, and this is something we've talked about on the show many times, is I think the leader of who goes out first with the best marketing is going to get a chance at really getting some pent-up demand for this product. Remember that we've got ARK involved, Fidelity, many others that are in the race for top ETF for Bitcoin. And if all of this, of course, plays into BlackRock as one of the leaders, it'll be interesting. Appearing on the list is simply an indication that an agent bank has requested a DTCC identifier, meaning this is the way that you can go out and get these funds. And obviously it needs the future following SEC approval to make all this happen. And then, of course, a proposed fund inclusion on the list is not indicative of an outcome for an outstanding regulatory or other approval process for an ETF fund, just as a disclaimer. I want to go over to a clip real quick to kind of get in on an understanding of not only what Bitcoin is facing, but maybe how the markets will be playing this out. Listen, this is Anthony Pompliano.
Right now, we do have high interest rates, and they're trying not to print money. But we have a $33.5 trillion debt. They're trying to fund 2 proxy wars. We have the southern border issue. We've got all sorts of inflation they're still trying to combat. And so what's likely to happen here is that they're going to have to return to loose monetary policy. When they do that, it is likely to coincide with the Bitcoin halving.
But near term, just talking about the ETF, you've got nothing has happened in the last 3 weeks to indicate it's any closer?
Well, I definitely think that it's closer, right? I mean,
well, because 3 weeks went by.
Well, 3 weeks went by, but also BlackRock is now going and they're seeding the fund.
They're seeding the fund in October, which is new?
Correct. And so they just amended the application. And so really what you're just seeing is they're getting prepared for the approval. The big question is, are they going to just...
Do they know anything? They may know nothing either.
They may know nothing, but I don't think that BlackRock is going to go through all this effort, right? Remember, there's reputation risk here in terms of people know what they're doing, and so it's much more likely that it's going to get approved.
All right, so some of the same things, but more than likely get approved. All this is still very speculative with the SEC, but at the same time, there is a little bit of news here that I'll reveal here in the show that maybe there is more of a point from the SEC actually flowing in this direction. So we'll see if this actually does become a major impetus on the market, and how much more does Bitcoin move? That's the real question. This was a tweet by Jason Williams, and he makes a good point here is that, you've got BlackRock, Fidelity, Invesco, others. They're going to have about a couple of year pent-up demand potentially. Remember, we still have the halving. We've got a potential wind down of what we're dealing with on a macro level. All of this plays into the demand on a risk asset like Bitcoin. And if that does happen, how are they going to find that much, physical Bitcoin to be able to put in these funds? Because this is a one-to-one fund. What does that mean? That means that we're going to see Bitcoin most likely go up. Now, I've been in and out of Bitcoin for about the last year. Recently sold all my Bitcoin looking for an opportunity to buy these pumps. So that's something that I have been doing. Of course, many people say, well, where do you take those? Well, I've done it into Ethereum, I've gone into Solana, which have had larger moves in these periods of time. So remember, some of these tokens, again, looking at where all of this is going to go, all of this is really playing this, one move at a time. And that whether we see a pump from an ETF or we see Ethereum or Solana or other assets out there start to make these kind of moves based on what the market penetration of Bitcoin in many cases is the indicator that takes us kind of the next level. Another tweet right here. I'm going to play this for you, just a quick update, because I know a lot of people have been looking at Tom Emmer as being the potential speaker designate. He did not make it, but I want to play this clip real quick.
What is happening, Ali Vitale?
It's a new record, at least, Nicole.
Right, with 3 hours?
Emmer had this job of speaker designate. 3 hours, exactly.
Yeah.
He got it around 1 o'clock, and my understanding is he walked into the room behind me at around 4, dropped out, and left with a smile, but nary a word to reporters.
Now, right now, we have breaking information coming in from Fox, which, of course, gets into the issue of Johnson, which is secured the speaker's gavel, and they're going through the vote. I think they are still on the way. And it's very possible that we could see Rep. Mike Johnson, of course, out of Louisiana, start to take this speaker role. Now, remember, all of this could flow into a positive simply because we've got a lot of bills that are on the floor right now, or it could go completely the opposite. And that is, this guy doesn't necessarily follow in the digital asset space like we've seen Emmer, McHenry, and others out there that have supported that. Doesn't mean that that is going to continue to be the case, because remember, McCarthy could care less about crypto. He did not really have a stance one way or another. So it may not be as significant. The point is that there's so much pent-up legislation that's got to be done. So that's the other picture that I think will play out. Now, the question is going to be, what does this do to the potential for Bitcoin or other digital assets in general if we do start to see some movement from the House? I want to go to another clip right here on Pompliano talking about Bitcoin and politics, and I'll talk about that in a second. Listen in.
At the end of the day, Bitcoin doesn't care about the politics of it all, right? Now, the SEC and other organizations definitely care. Well, here's the thing is Bitcoin is just highly, highly disciplined, right? It is the most disciplined central bank in the world. It doesn't care what's going on in the news. It doesn't care about geopolitics. It just produces block after block of transactions.
But the price of Bitcoin does. The price of Bitcoin cares very much about what happens.
Bitcoin's up 100% to start this year, right? And I don't think a lot of people kind of recognize that because they remember it was at 69,000. It drew down to 15, but it's up 100% to start the year. And so when you look at that, the market is obviously telling us something. And what we're watching is capital is flowing.
Someone's calling it a flight to quality. You've
Not
seen
someone,
that.
Larry Fink.
All right, so I disagree with Pompliano there. Bitcoin does care about politics. It is clearly connected to the world stage. It's clearly connected to the news cycle. It's connected to the macro community. It's connected to the financial markets. It has, just like any other asset class out there, regardless of the technology, is very tied in to politics and the future of all this. Remember, if we had a presidential, advocate to where they simply said, yeah, we're for Bitcoin, what would Bitcoin do? Of course it would move. if we have the same kind of scenario that says we're going to outlaw Bitcoin in the United States, that would crater Bitcoin. It would. There's no doubt about it. These are the kind of things that these news cycles will have effects on all these markets out there. So you can't go out there and really say that. I think it's a great line, but I'm not sure. And he goes on about this. I'll go to this next clip. Listen in.
What Washington decides does matter. And I would think that having them decide something would be helpful. Like just getting rules of the road would probably.
So I think that the companies that deal with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, they care what Washington is doing, right? They're the ones who are spending the money. They're the ones who are doing this. Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol. Bitcoin's not spending any money. Bitcoin doesn't even have a team behind it. And so I think that the companies very much care, and they are lobbying, and they are trying to get these clarity of rules and try to push this forward. But Bitcoin itself, if the government tomorrow came out and banned Bitcoin, everyone else around the world would say, okay, and they probably would actually go buy it because all of a sudden they would say, hey, this is outside the system. This is something that isn't controlled by any government. It isn't controlled by any individual. And so it's this very interesting thing where decentralization of the protocol really matters. But the companies, they're still centralized companies with American citizens running them, and they definitely care what is going on in Washington.
Yeah, I would agree there that companies are the derivatives of what is happening with Bitcoin as a whole. And yes, that matters in Washington. It matters very much so from a political standpoint, especially around regulation. As far as the team behind it, I mean, Bitcoin is one of the biggest marketing engines I've ever seen before. When you look at the devs, the network of influencers, the people that really are the true Bitcoiners out there, the OGs that are within the market. I mean, this is a community. So yeah, there's a lot behind Bitcoin overall. So all of this happening around Bitcoin, but this has not really kind of moved Ethereum that much. So this is something, though, that is interesting. ETH has fared well during this market, kind of this crypto surge in general. Prices crossed 1850, first time since August 15. 8.4% of ETH supply now on exchanges, lowest since 2015. So that's huge. Whale transactions also hit 6-month high. All of this happening at the same time where you've got a certain level of priced in ETH value. And if you go over to Nansen, this kind of gives you a framework of it. Right here, ETH staked average price right now around $2,000. So it's likely that we're going to see some moves pretty quickly on ETH trying to recapture those kinds of averages. And that's the thing that I think as you watch Ethereum along with some other assets, they kind of play into this that could really cause ETH to see some pretty significant movement here. All right, so let's jump over to this tweet. All right, ETH is probably the best 6 to 12 month long large cap asset right now. Blackrock applies for a spot ETF 6 to 12 months down the road. Could possibly be the case. Then he states Ethereum's ESG friendliness and native staking yield will be appealing to institutional investors should Bitcoin spot ETFs turn out to be a success. So a couple of things you could break out. ESG, remember that BlackRock threw ESG kind of under the bus. So that I feel like is already off the table for BlackRock. But to a point that our team made is that, yeah, there are a lot of money managers. There's a lot of family offices. There are a lot of people that could use ESG as a selling point. Here would be my argument with that, is that ETH is still got a long ways to go with being able to get into mainstream. So I think Bitcoin has already got all this baggage on it where it's going to win the low-hanging fruit. ETH, though, I think is going to be the smart money starting to move in. And they're going to know that it kind of doesn't matter. I think in terms of an ESG, that's just my theory around where ESG. I don't know that ETH's ESG position is going to be a selling point, is my getting. Sure, they will always use it as a talking point because it's just kind of something that just ends up on a PowerPoint slide when investors start presenting. One thing that Bankless was talking about, ETH ETF isn't priced in. I would agree with that. There hasn't been enough discussion about it. There definitely hasn't been the Bloomberg angle on this and the amount of movement that we've seen from all the influencers kind of pushing to this. So I would agree with that for sure. This is from Bernisky. It's true fans. Rally is great and likely still has legs. The global situation, which is up only, will not be a thing for a while. That's in his opinion. Soak up the vibes, let fools chase, and when it comes ready to buy, higher low. That's my point, is that yes, there's going to be some wins here. I think they're short-term wins. The likelihood of seeing a retracement, now it will be a higher low, but the point is there's going to be a re-entry point. You guys will be able to take advantage of it. So it's definitely not something that's going to run away from you. Now, Polygon, they've got a lot of movement going on as well. And that is the Pol token upgrade is now live on the Ethereum mainnet. Let me kind of zoom in on that for you guys. So you can see it. So they released this summer the roadmap for scaling, building the value layer. When you look at this project, it's the real deal. Now, this I think is going to be a big benefit for Polygon. And one of the reasons why I sold my entire Polygon bag earlier this year was what we were seeing we didn't really like. And obviously, this move right here was one of the key things that we were looking at as being a potential. Pol token is now, Pol token is now in movement. But remember, not yet listed, and it's this one-to-one for every Matic you own, you're going to be able to swap that out. That's going to be where it'll get interesting as things play out. But remember, it's not listed yet, but if you do look at some of the trading movement right now, and you can kind of see this with wrapped ETH, and it's, big skyrocket right now, so it's definitely on fire. What does that move from this crazy position right here? Let's just look. Yeah, you can kind of see, just nuts. So could be some cool stuff coming. Let's take a look also over here at another tweet right here. This is something that I thought was interesting. This was, of course, our friends over at Digital Asset News. What could he be talking about? This is a reference to Eleanor's tweet right here. Let me zoom in on that for you guys. New at 2023 Securities Enforcement Forum. This is Gensler saying something. It says he's looking forward to moving some good products across the line for the American people. Does he mean ETFs? Because he does say products. Or has he got something else he's moving across the line? You never know with this guy. I just don't trust him. Don't forget, we also have base continuing to fly, as you can kind of see. Total value lock continuing to climb, value continuing to climb. All of this moving in the right direction. And this gets back to some of the things that we've talked about before on the channel, and that is watch these secondary markets, because some of these things are really start to move. I feel like obviously with Solana, Breakpoint, but more things coming around Solana Pay, their connection with Visa, what we'll see with that. Ethereum, with just the ecosystem continuing to explode, and then obviously Base and all the projects that will be rolling in there. So there's so much happening in the market right now. If you just look quickly at the charts, Bitcoin's still pushing that 34.5 number after retracing just slightly. And, Ethereum, as we take a look at it right now, it came off that 1840 high, slipped right back down, and then has started to climb its way back to around 1790. So it's moving back again. Love to see how you guys are playing this. Drop some comments down below. We always love to get your feedback. And of course, it's one of the best things that you can do right now is get into the Diamond Circle. Jump in. It's very easy. We always leave a link down below. It's a place where you can get additional content, more podcasts. We also have additional TA videos over there. But it's stuff that we don't do here on the YouTube channel. So make sure and jump in on that. If you guys want to catch me on X, it's out there at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.